"I thought I didn't need a man," the Apache woman said to the cowboy who rescued her, and then the sun was high over the wide plains, making the grass shimmer with a golden light. The wind moved slowly, carrying the smell of dry earth and wildflowers. A lone figure moved carefully among the tall grass, her steps quiet but deliberate. She was an Apache woman, strong and proud, moving with the confidence of someone who had learned to survive on her own. Her dark hair blew slightly in the wind, and her eyes scanned the horizon constantly. She was used to being alone. She had always believed that she didn't need anyone's help. Life had taught her to rely on herself, and she had done it well. Yet today, despite her careful steps, danger was closer than she expected. A sudden rustle in the bushes made her stop. Her hand went instinctively to the small knife she carried, her heart beating fast but steady. She had faced wild animals before, and she had evaded trouble many times. But today, something was different. The rustling grew louder, and she realized she was not alone. Before she could react fully, a wild horse, startled by her presence, bolted through the tall grass. She tried to move aside, but she tripped on a hidden root and fell hard to the ground. Pain shot through her ankle. She gritted her teeth, trying not to cry out. She had never been one to show weakness, and she refused to now. But the thought of being stranded in the middle of the plains, injured and alone, made her stomach twist with unease. It was then she saw him. A cowboy, tall and steady, appeared at the edge of the clearing. His hat was tilted to shield his eyes from the sun, and his eyes, sharp and kind, were focused on her. He did not rush, but there was a calm decisiveness in his movement. Without a word, he reached her side, speaking softly as he knelt. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice gentle but strong. She shook her head, refusing to let him see how frightened she felt. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice betrayed a hint of strain. Pride was important to her. She had always believed that showing fear or need was a weakness, but the cowboy ignored her protest. He carefully helped her sit up, examining her ankle with a practiced eye. He didn't try to control her, didn't treat her like she was fragile. Instead, he spoke quietly, offering support, not demands. "You need to rest," he said simply. "It's just for a little while, then we can get you moving again." She had always prided herself on doing everything alone, but the pain in her ankle and the vast emptiness around her made her realize that resisting him could be dangerous. Slowly, she allowed him to help her to her feet. He guided her to a nearby shaded area under a lone tree, offering water and food from his pack. She took them cautiously, still wary of dependence. But as she drank, she felt the warmth of gratitude mixing with her pride. She had survived long alone, yes, but there was something different about the calm way he treated her, not as someone to be protected, but as someone worthy of respect. They sat together in quiet for a while. The cowboy didn't push conversation, letting her recover at her own pace. She observed him. He was not boastful or rough like some men she had known. There was a steady kindness in his gaze, and she found herself noticing it despite herself. He seemed to understand that she was not used to relying on anyone. That understanding made her feel less vulnerable, strangely safe even in her cautiousness. As the sun moved lower in the sky, he offered to help her walk a little further, suggesting they find a safer spot to spend the night. She hesitated, then nodded. She was not ready to admit she needed him, but she accepted his presence because it was practical. They moved slowly, his hand steadying her when she stumbled, his voice encouraging but never commanding. Along the way, they spoke a little, sharing small stories of life on the plains. She learned that he had traveled these lands for years, helping those in need and living a life of quiet independence himself. He didn't boast of bravery, nor did he claim superiority. Instead, he spoke of his experiences with respect for the land and the people he met. She listened, intrigued despite herself. It was rare to meet someone who understood strength and survival without trying to dominate or control. By the time they reached a small creek, the sky was painted with the soft pink and orange of sunset. He helped her wash the dust from her face and hands, moving with care and respect. She noticed small details, the way he waited patiently, the way he gave her space while still being near enough to help. It was not the help of someone trying to take over, but of someone offering partnership. As night fell, they made a small camp near the creek. He built a fire, careful to keep it safe, while she rested and flexed her sore ankle. The crackling of the fire was comforting in the vast darkness. Stars stretched endlessly above them, and for the first time in a long while she felt a sense of calm. She had survived so much alone, and yet, tonight, there was a quiet feeling that maybe she didn't have to be entirely alone. Around the fire they shared more stories, and slowly her walls began to ease. She spoke of her family, of the struggles she had faced, and of the times she had relied solely on her own strength. He listened without interruption, never judging, never offering advice unless she asked. That simple act of listening, of respecting her voice, touched her in a way she had not expected. At one point she looked at him and said softly, almost reluctantly, "I thought I didn't need a man." The words were more than just a statement. They were a reflection of her pride, her lifelong belief in independence, and the surprise of feeling something new. He looked at her calmly with a small, understanding smile. "You don't have to need me," he said gently. "I'm just here if you want company, that's all." The night grew deeper and the fire burned low. She lay down near the warmth, feeling the ache in her ankle slowly fade with the help of his careful attention. The sounds of the plains surrounded them, the rustling of grass, distant calls of animals, and the gentle flow of the creek. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to breathe fully, letting go of some of the tension she had carried for so long. The cowboy kept watch nearby, his presence steady but unobtrusive. She didn't need him to fight her battles or make decisions for her. He simply existed as a quiet companion, offering help without asking for anything in return. That distinction made all the difference. As she drifted towards sleep, she thought about the strange turns life could take. She had set out believing she could face everything alone, and perhaps she still could. But tonight, she understood that strength was not only in standing alone, it could also be in allowing someone to walk beside her when needed. Not because she needed saving, but because true companionship didn't diminish her, it enhanced her. And with that thought, she closed her eyes under the vast, starry sky, feeling a mixture of pride and a newfound openness to trust. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, as life always did, but for tonight, she was grateful for the quiet presence of the cowboy who had walked into her life at just the right moment. She didn't yet know where this path would lead, but for the first time, she felt that sharing a part of it with someone else might not take away her independence. It might in fact make her stronger. The morning sun rose slowly over the plains, painting the land in soft shades of gold and green. The Apache woman stirred from her sleep, feeling the cool morning air on her face. Her ankle was sore but less painful, thanks to the cowboy's careful help the night before. She stretched quietly, taking a moment to watch the fire burn low, its ashes glowing faintly. She felt a strange sense of peace, a calm she hadn't known in years of traveling alone. The cowboy was already awake, sitting near the fire and watching the horizon. When he saw her stirring, he nodded with a small smile. "Morning," he said softly, careful not to startle her. She nodded in return, managing a small smile herself. Words were not always necessary between them. Their shared silence had begun to build a sense of understanding that neither of them had expected. She could feel his respect, not only for her independence but for who she was as a person. That respect made her feel safe, and the sensation was strangely comforting. After breakfast, they began their journey again. The plain stretched endlessly in all directions, dotted with low shrubs and occasional clusters of trees. Their steps were slow but steady, each helping the other when the terrain became difficult. She noticed how naturally he moved, how he watched for danger without appearing anxious. His presence gave her a sense of security she didn't feel as fear but as quiet assurance. During a brief rest, she finally spoke, breaking the usual silence. "You didn't have to help me yesterday," she said carefully, her eyes fixed on the distant mountains. "I could have managed alone. And I wanted to." A sudden rainstorm forced them to find shelter quickly under a rocky outcrop. Water poured down from the sky, soaking the ground and making the plains slippery. Her ankle protested, and she stumbled, but he was immediately there, steadying her with a careful hand. She realized that this was not the help of someone trying to control her, it was partnership. She could still move and decide, but she could do so with support when needed. By the time the storm passed, the plains were glistening, each blade of grass reflecting the sunlight like tiny jewels. The air smelled fresh and clean. She paused to take it all in, feeling a rare sense of wonder. The cowboy waited silently, giving her the space to appreciate the beauty of the land. She found herself noticing small details about him too, the way he moved, the way he spoke softly to the animals they passed, the way he seemed to respect every living thing around him. That evening, they set up camp near a small grove of trees, where the ground was soft and dry. She watched him build the fire, noting the care he took in arranging the wood. When he looked up and caught her gaze, he offered a small smile. She realized that she no longer felt the same tension she had when she first met him. There was still pride in her heart, but now it was balanced with something new, a growing trust, a sense that she could allow someone into her world without losing herself. They shared a quiet meal, speaking of small things, where the next water source might be, which animals they had seen, stories from their pasts. She told him about her family, about the Apache traditions she cherished, about the long days she had spent learning to survive on her own. He listened carefully, never interrupting, never judging. That alone made her feel seen in a way few others had. After the meal, she spoke again, her voice softer this time. "I never thought I would want someone to be near me," she admitted. "I thought I didn't need a man." She didn't need him to live, but having his steady presence made her feel lighter. It did not diminish her independence, it enhanced it. She could still walk her own path, but now it was possible to share part of the journey with someone she trusted. The night was quiet under a sky full of stars. They sat near the fire, speaking less and listening more. Sometimes words were unnecessary. The sound of the wind, the crackling of the fire, and the gentle rustle of the trees were enough. She felt a connection growing between them, one built not on desire or dependence, but on respect and understanding. The next day brought another challenge. They came across a group of travelers who were lost and in need of guidance. The cowboy suggested they help, and she agreed, realizing that working together made the task easier. They guided the travelers to a safe path, sharing what they could of their knowledge without hesitation. In doing so, she saw the value of partnership, not just for herself but for others. Strength shared could multiply, and independence did not mean isolation. Later, as they rested, she spoke more openly than she had in years. She shared fears she had never admitted, moments of doubt and loneliness she had hidden beneath her pride. He listened patiently, offering small reassurances, never pushing, never judging. For the first time, she realized that being honest about vulnerability did not make her weak, it was a form of strength. Over the following days, their bond continued to grow. They traveled side by side, sharing meals, laughter, and moments of quiet reflection. She found herself looking for his opinion, not out of dependence but out of respect. He had earned her trust through patience, kindness, and understanding. And she respected him, not because he saved her, but because he treated her as an equal, someone capable and strong. One evening, as they sat watching the sun dip below the horizon, she turned to him with a small, genuine smile. "I never expected to feel this way," she said. "I thought I could do everything alone, but now, I see that strength doesn't always mean standing by yourself. Together, we can be stronger than we are alone." By the time they reached a safe area with a clear view of the plains, she felt a sense of accomplishment and peace she hadn't known in years. They had faced challenges, relied on each other, and come through stronger. She no longer felt the need to insist that she could do everything alone. She had learned that it was possible to remain independent while still letting someone walk beside her. The cowboy and the Apache woman paused at the edge of the plains, looking out over the wide open land. She knew their journey together might continue for a while, or perhaps they would part ways eventually. But whatever happened, she understood now that trust, respect, and partnership did not diminish who she was. Instead, they added depth and strength to her life. That night under the vast sky, she allowed herself to rest fully, feeling a warmth in her heart that had nothing to do with fire. She had faced the unknown, accepted help without fear, and discovered the quiet power of trust. And as she drifted to sleep, she felt certain that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would meet them with courage, independence, and the knowledge that sometimes, walking together made the path brighter.